So, right when I got into this new unit, which is East One, it's considered the Gladiator tank. Um, it's a rough tank. I mean, Santa Barbara County Jail, there's a big misconception because everybody thinks Santa Barbara, they think it's like a fucking soap opera, picturesque beach town. It does. I mean, it looks like a postcard. We don't even really have crime there, you know? People would always say that our gangs in Santa Barbara have tattoo shop work, which is a joke because you should have shitty, sooty prison work. You shouldn't have like professional, like face tattoos. They should be like shitty pick and poke or, with soot from a prison motor gun. But these guys all have like, it's like rich gangsters. They like lease BMWs. They're like doing like drive-bys with like James Bond silencers. Like, yo, what's up, fool? And they like play like classical music and just go in there in their little Z3 convertible. Anyway, I don't know. Sorry. I'm just going right into these videos now. But, they have the thing about Santa Barbara County Jail is that it's not Santa Barbara people that are rough or ghetto. It's the neighboring ghetto ass cities. Santa Maria, Lompoc, Buellton. Um, they're like shitty agricultural towns, like any shitty agricultural town in Northern California. That's not really considered Northern California. I guess it's still central, but they're a lot rougher than Santa Barbara people. So when you go to Santa Barbara County Jail, it's not like some kicked back spot. I've been to LA County, I've been to San Bernardino County. Those are bad, but Santa Barbara County is pretty fucking bad. It's a very violent jail. And they have East One, which is, what I said is like the Gladiator tank. And I don't know if you guys remember the story that I told, but the first time I ever went to jail, I went to East One. I'd never been there. I had no idea what to expect. I had long hippie hair at the time. I was 18. I was just an 18-year-old little drug addict kid. And I remember people could see how green I was, but they throw you in this East One Gladiator tank. There's a lot of tanks in Santa Barbara County Jail. I don't know, 25 tanks. This tank in particular is where they throw all the youngsters and all the people that are like in jail for the first time to kind of teach you a lesson because they know you're probably going to get your fucking ass beat just being in there. And I did. And I've already told the story, but for those of you that are just tuning in, this is what happened to me the first time I was in this particular tank where this story takes place. So I was there when I was 18 and I was coming off heroin. So I was already sick and annoying. And nobody likes somebody that's kicking heroin when you're in a county jail setting. You're having wet farts, you're dry heaving into the toilet, you're compulsively masturbating while people are awake. The older I get, the more that I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Fuck, it's 3:00. I'm getting one. People are like, are you jerking off? And you're like, no. And they like they tug the blanket off of you and like your little jailhouse pants are like around your knees and you're just busted and you have like dried nut all over you and you're just like, dude, it's not what it looks like. I swear to God. Anyway, so the first time I was in there, they take you to recreation. So there's this big, rectangular yard. They have a basketball court. They have a couple payphones out there. Kind of looks like how they show jail or prison in movies. Where there's like people like walk in the little yard and they have like their shirt tucked into their jailhouse pants and they're like people are like making phone calls on the payphone. That's what this looks like, but it's just a county jail. Prison is way more hardcore, but this is what our county jail recreation looks like if you're in the tanks. There's the tanks and there's also Honor Farm. Honor Farm's like if you're not a fuck up, you can go to it. And but anyway, that's not where I was. First time I was there, I went to these tanks, went out to recreation. It was this rectangular yard. That yard has 4 doors that are facing tanks. So there's like back central, there's another, like, I think it's like, I don't know, back central 1, back central 4, I think. I don't even remember. But let's just say there's 4 different doors, and each one of those doors looks into a housing unit, and there's like different people in those tanks. And so when you're walking around, you can actually walk up to the doors. There's bars on them, but you can like look in and you can talk to people that are in those tanks, you know. And so back then, now they have all these doors closed because people are passing stuff all the time, and that's what happened. There's probably 20 Southsiders in this tank, and there's like 3 white guys. It's always like this. The few white guys that are there are always these decrepit old guys. Like, you know, they have like eye patches on, and they have like hooks for hands, and they're, you know, some of them are like, you have to like roll around on a wheelchair. You're like, Dad, why do I have to have this guy as my spades partner? He always fucking loses. They're like, shut up. Bet your lunch, bitch. I'm just, oh, all right. And then, you know, it's like a fixed game. It's like all the Southsiders versus like the 2 white guys. And it's like you lose. And you're like, why? And they're like, you just lose, dog. That's why. Because you didn't play right, dog. You fucking suck, fool. Give me your sandwich. I'm just like, all right. Fuck. But I'm hungry. Well, then maybe you shouldn't lose, dog. Hey, we'll play again tomorrow. Maybe you'll have better luck then, dog. Fucking loser. So this particular time, there weren't like white guys to back me up. You know, I didn't get invited to play any of the basketball games because I'm not in a gang. I'm not Mexican. I'm not in a gang. So therefore, I'm not invited to play. You know, I was like, well, what am I supposed to do, guys? They're like, hey, you can just walk laps. You can take your shirt off and walk laps, fool. That's all you can do. You're fucking useless, dog. So that's what I was doing. So everybody, when yard's over, and there's like a gun tower with cops that like watches in case like a little fist fight breaks. That's county jail. You know, it's not that bad. You know, yes, fist fights can get brutal, and I've seen people get stomped out, and it can be very gory. But it's not prison where people are like slitting people's throats, and like you see it happen, and you just keep walking and act like nothing happened. I've seen stuff like that in prison, and it's crazy. So when yard's over, they're like, okay, everybody go back to your unit, and you have to file like you have to get in a single file line at the door, ready to go back to your unit, and one of the COs escorts you back there. So everybody's leaving the yard. I'm still walking laps, and you hear somebody just out of this like dark, you know, door. You can't see who's on the other side. You hear, hey, Cavacho, hey, white boy, hey, Weddle. I'm like, yeah. Hey, what's up, Wood? Hey, is Baby Tapapio in your unit, dog? Yeah, he is. Hey, you think I could give you something to shoot to him? I'd really appreciate it. Thank you, homie. I'm like, all right, cool. So he slides something to me. I put it in my sock. It's like a, you know, little folded up piece of paper. I don't know what it is. It was because I was the last person walking. You know, he's like, hey, Wood. Hey, let me get at you, dog. Hey, you think you can do this for me? I'm like, all right. So I put this little folded piece of paper, and I'm supposed to give it to Baby Tapatio or whatever the fuck his name is, Baby Scrappy, Baby Papa from Carpinteria. I go back into my unit, and I'm dope sick. So I forget to give it to Baby Tapatio or whoever it was. So that day, like there's individual showers in Santa Barbara County Jail. That day I went to go shower. I get in there, you know, you go in and you take your clothes off and you put it on like, you know, the little shower curtain. You shower, and then when you're done, you dry off and you put your clothes back in, and then you walk out and you're fully clothed again. When I was changing out, the little thing fell out of my sock, this little folded piece of paper. I was like, oh shit, I forgot about that. I forgot to give it to dude. I go to grab it. I feel that there's something in it. Now I'm dope sick. I'm like, oh, I hope it's heroin. Open it, and it's like it's probably like a gram of crystal meth and like 1 shard rock. And I look at it. I'm like, I don't even think twice. I just crush it up and I snort it, Scarface style. There's like shards like hanging out of my nose. I'm twacked out, you know, and I'm one of those people that doesn't like being twacked out dope sick. Some people are like, it makes it better. No, it's better to be spun out. No, I don't agree. I don't like being spun out at all. Just turn into a fucking pervert. I'll do anything on meth. I don't even care, you know? If you could like lick a basketball and you get some sort of sexual gratification, I'd do it. Hate crystal meth. Ugh. And when I say that, like everyone's like, "Oh, dude, you must." No, perverted shit that I do on meth is I sit in the bathroom and I beat off for hours. Sometimes I start singing songs while I'm beating off, like in Spanish and shit. I get weird as fuck on that drug. It turns me into a different person. Jail's the worst. There's nothing worse than being spun out in jail. So I'm all twacked out. I get out of the shower and I'm like, so now I'm like playing solitaire by myself on the table. And people are like, hey, are you all right, dog? What's going on? You look all fucking smoked out, fool. No. Kind of just feel like licking a fucking basketball if you got one. Saying weird stuff like that. I'm sure I didn't say that. Maybe. I wouldn't put it past myself. So it's like obvious that I was twacked out. And then I remember I'd stay up all night, like reading like Stephen King books. I remember I was reading Cujo at the time. Cujo, yeah. I'm pretty sure I was reading Cujo. I'm reading Cujo and I'm on the top bunk. And like, I'm just like, it's weird. Like on speed, you get like these weird, like, it's like the movie Limitless. I can like just look at a page and I can like read like one page in like 10 seconds and I like can comprehend it. I'm like, all right, Cujo did this. I'm just like going through books really quick. They must have gotten a message like, hey, where's the dope we sent? We gave it to the white boy, the weird one. The dude that was licking basketballs while he was walking lap. No. So they must have gotten the message because I'm laying up in bed reading. They yank me off the bed and start smashing me out. And when they yanked me off the bed, I hit my head and got a concussion. So by the time I woke up, I was just fucked off in the infirmary and I got my ass handed to me. And that's when I was 18. That was my first experience in East One. I had never been back to this tank since. And remember in the last video I talked about, I got there, the rep, the shot caller was like, hey, you fuck around? Yeah. I will suck a dick if you're talking about heroin right now. And he comes up and he just gives me a calito, spoon of heroin, put it up my nose, I get well. And so I'm not even in the East One yet, just holding my linen and I'm already gouged out, scratching, instantly feel better. Now, this is what's weird about being strung out on the amount of buprenorphine, Suboxone that I was on and then having to kick it and then getting well on heroin. Now, as we talked about, buprenorphine has a very long half-life. So it takes a few days for you to even get sick. And I was probably doing, Jeff likes to say I was slamming 8 strips a day. That sounds like a lot. I'm sure if he was sitting right next to me, he'd be like, Ryan, it was 10. He says that I minimize my drug use. People are like, you exaggerate. He's always like, if they really knew you, then you fucking minimize it. You don't want to look like the kind of crackhead you really are. Coffee's just really good. I don't know. So what happens when you're kicking is, so like it's been 3 days. Remember, I went on suicide watch. So by the time I get off suicide watch, that's when the sickness really kicks in. Now you have the psychological element before that. If you're on Suboxone and all of a sudden it's taken from you, like right away, you're like, oh my God, I'm sick. Let's rob a supermarket. That's just how junkies are. It's always like you make it in your head like it's worse than it is. There's definitely a physical side to it, and being dope sick's horrible. And being dope sick on buprenorphine, anything synthetic like methadone, is way worse than heroin. I don't care what anyone says. I'd way rather kick heroin than Suboxone. I'd way rather kick heroin than methadone. I'd way rather kick heroin than Oxycontin or any sort of painkiller. Synthetic opioids are far, far worse than opiates like heroin or morphine. Far worse. So what's interesting is I was already sick going in there. And when you do heroin, yes, it gets you well. But Suboxone, the kick for Suboxone is really weird. Like you get these really horrible leg spasms where like your feet are jelly. I mean, you get that on heroin, but this is like a whole different thing. Like, it's like your leg cannot stop shaking. So yes, you get well in some sense. You're not full-blown dope sick, but you still are sick. So now I'm in this unit and like my legs are restless. I have the restless leg syndrome, but I'm well. And I'm like, oh my God, how much dope do you guys have? And they introduced me to the guy. I don't want to use his real name, even though he's a bitch. Yeah, you know, I hope you're watching this. You know what you did. But the connection is this like, what are we gonna call him? We'll call him we'll call him Midget Man. That's what his name will be, Midget Man. So they introduced me to this guy, and he's older. He's got glasses on, and he's a dirtbag. His name's Midget Man. Now he's on what's called AB 109. In 2012, and I could be wrong about the dates, but just for argument's sake, around 2012, it was determined that California state prisons were overcapacitated by like 200%, 400%, whatever it was. It's ridiculous. You'd see photographs of people stacked up. It looked crazy. It was like people stacked on top of each other in barracks, and you always see these like overcapacitated state prison photos, and it looked really crazy. Jerry Brown was our governor at the time, and he mandated that they shrink the population by a specific percentage. So they started doing all sorts of things to accomplish that. One of the things that they did is they made new legislation. Prop, not 57, is it Prop 58? I don't remember, but some proposition in the California legislative process, it was on the ballot, made all simple possessions of narcotics a misdemeanor. So now you could get caught with like an 8 ball of crack and you're not going to prison for it. Like back in the day, you'd go to prison. Like they'd find like a little crack rock and they'd be like, oh, prison. Yeah. No, your addiction warrants you to be with a bunch of people that are cutting people's heads off, because people own bags of coffee. You belong with those people. And really backfired on California because now you have all these like little wiry crackheads that go to prison, they get in good shape, and they learn to be violent because they're around killers. They're doing weird shit for money, you know? It's like, dude, I'm so sick. Can you please give me a paper of heroin? Huh. You have some like drug dealers like, some lifer. He's like, I'm bored. Go slap another race and start a race riot. If you do it, perhaps I'll give you some drugs. Like the little like crackhead goes up and slaps a Southsider. Whole penitentiary goes up in flames. It backfired, They had violent prisoners coming up. So they made simple possession a misdemeanor that wouldn't carry a prison sentence anymore. And then if there were prison sentences associated with like petty crimes, like simple possession, petty theft, things that you don't need to go to a penitentiary for, now you're doing prison terms in county jail. Now, on the surface, that looks good. My dad's always like, wow, that Jerry Brown, he really did a lot for reform. I'm like, no, Dad, he didn't. Because county jails are way, way, way shittier than prisons. Maybe not as violent, but you can't get an education. There's no classes. You can't get sleep. They wake you up in the middle of the night. Mail call. It's like 4 a.m. You're like, what the fuck? Why are you doing mail at 4 a.m? Then like you get to sleep and like at 4:15, pill call. And all night they're like yelling people's names for you to walk up to the bars. They feed you at like 2 a.m. That's breakfast. It's just weird shit. You can never get a good night's sleep. Constantly fights. Lights are on at all times. There's no yard. You can't go outside. You can't get packages. You can't get good commissary. You can't buy a CD player. You can't buy an MP3 player. You can't buy a TV for your cell. County jails suck. Yes, it's more violent in prisons. But you know what happens when you start bringing all the prison people into jails? It makes now the jails are fucking violent too. And now you got violent prisons and violent county jails. I hadn't been to county jail since the prison population came to county jail, and it was a whole different thing. So they came up with this thing called AB 109 where you're doing county jail sentences in prison. This guy, Midget Man, was like this guy in his 50s, complete dirtbag, the kind of guy that like has like 19-year-old girls suck his dick for like a fix of heroin. Probably 19-year-old dudes too. You know it if you're watching this, weirdo. Just a scumbag. He was on AB 109, and when you get in trouble on AB 109, they don't send you back to prison. Back in the day, you get a violation, you do 6 months. On AB 109, they give you what's called a 10-day flash. So you get in trouble and you go to probation. They're like, we're giving you a 10-day flash, which means you have to go to jail for 10 days. It's called a flash because you're in and out, just to teach you a lesson. Then they reinstate your probation. So your probation starts all over again. So you're constantly in and out of jail, in and out of jail. It's this jail, it's this vicious cycle that Jerry Brown did. It's like, well, okay, thanks, Jerry. You've not only are the prisons fucked up, now everything's fucked up. That's awesome. Now people can't get educations. When people can't get educations because they're just sitting in county jail, how do you think they're going to be when they get out? You've just created an entire homeless population that didn't exist. Makes no sense. But I'm not a lawmaker, am I? No. So there's people like Midget Man who would constantly be going in and out of jail. Every like month, he'd go piss dirty. They'd be like, all right, Midget Man, we're putting you in for a 10-day flash and we're reinstating your probation so it starts all over. So you can like never get off. These guys never get off. So people like that, because there's 10-day flashes, would just start bringing a bunch of drugs in his ass. You could bring like 20 grams of heroin in there and you're going to make like, $2,000. So basically, he just gets to stay in jail for 10 days, gets super high on heroin, and then he gets out and goes back to having 19-year-old girls and boys suck his cock. Has fun with that. And then he goes back to county jail and has drugs up his ass and then gets everybody high, sells some drugs, makes some money, gets out, the whole thing over again. He was one of those people. So what you see is you see more violence in jails and you also see more drugs. So they introduced me to him. They're like, this is the Connect. Now this unit had about 12 white guys and about 3 Paisas, no Southsiders. The units change over the years. When I got beat up that first time, Southsiders did it. Now there's 12 white guys. I didn't know any of them. They were all from Santa Maria, or they were homeless guys from Santa Barbara. And they all come up to you. Hey man, what's up, dog? I'm Spaz from Galita. Nice to meet you, dog. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm Ryan. How you doing? Dude, the tattoo you have is, oh, how do you, bomb? Yes, bomb. You meet motherfuckers like that, right? And you're just like, okay, thanks, Spaz. If anything pops up, if anything pops off, at least I know that Spaz has my back. I don't know. There's a bunch of weird. County jail has weird people, for sure. Prison has weird people, but county jail has some really weird people. It's like it's the people that can't even they can't even make it to prison. They're not even good enough at crime to like get caught to go to a better place. They just do petty shit and they're always in this horrible purgatory where it's like super unsanitary and horrible. God, I'm just messing up everything today, huh? So Midget Man's like, yeah, I got dope. Yeah, I get my dick sucked by teenage girls and boys. I was like, how much dope do you have? And he had 9 grams of heroin, 3 grams of crystal meth. And that's what I have. I was like, that's what you have for sale? He's like, yeah. How much do you want? I was like, I want all of it. He's like, it's going to be $1,200. Can you afford that? Now, I'm used to being in federal prison where a gram of heroin's $450. I wasn't doing heroin. I was just doing Suboxone before I came in there. I was like, I'll take it. Now, I didn't know how I was going to get it. In my mind, I'm still delusional. In my mind, I still think that I'm like some prison reform emblem. I'm some like symbol. I'm Gandhi. I'm the Gandhi of prison reform, I'll be able to get the money somehow. All of my friends are celebrities. You didn't happen to read the independent newspaper, did you? No, man. It's the kind of thing where like I got there, it's like, do you recognize me? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, you know, before you figure it out for yourself, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm a famous guy, famous writer. If you can front me some chili soups, that'd be pretty sick. So I'm going in there with like this weird ego. I meet Midget Man. He's trying to sell me 9 grams of heroin, 3 grams of meth. Now, I haven't talked to my parents. I haven't talked to Karina. Remember, Karina and I are broken up at the time. I haven't talked to anyone. I'd been on suicide watch. I'm just going into this, this holding tank, and I just did heroin. Once I get on heroin and once I find out that I can buy 9 grams and I can buy a few grams of meth, I start getting on the phone. But I don't have anyone's number. I don't even have Karina's number. So I call my mom. My mom's crying. She's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm cool, Mom. Don't worry about me. I've been through this before." And she's like, "I think you're gonna go away for a long time this time." I was like, "Yeah, I think so too, but I love you. It's gonna be all right. I promise. Don't worry about me." And she's, my mom gets really emotional. My dad gets on the phone. He's like, "Hey, how you doing? How were they when they arrested you?" Now, I'm still mad at my dad. And I'm like, "Dad, I'm not ready to talk to you. Let me talk to Mom." So I talked to my mom again. I asked her for Karina's phone number. So she gets Karina's phone number and she gives it to me. And in Santa Barbara County Jail, you can call any cell phone number once, and they give you like a free 5-minute call. Karina and I had no idea what our relationship was. We had a drunken fling. She got pregnant, and now I was in jail, and I knew that it was over. It's like it's my third time going to prison, and you just know. I didn't have like, yeah, I'm thinking maybe I'll get bail next week. There's none of that. It's more like, fuck, got to get in a workout routine. Got to start figuring out what I'm going to do. And really, all I cared about in that moment was I missed Karina, and I really did miss her. It's not even that I missed her. It's just that I needed like a voice of like a familiar person to talk to on the phone. It wasn't even really about missing her. It was just like being alone in that situation. And like, I just wanted to hear her voice. And so I called her, and she's like, "Ryan?" I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Wow, I'm really shocked that you'd call me." I was like, "Why wouldn't I call you? We're having a baby together." She's like, "We're not even like boyfriend and girlfriend anymore." And I'm like, "Yeah, um, I know. I just wanted to hear your voice. I'm lonely, and I don't know. I felt like your voice would make me feel better." Karina's like, she's easy like that. And so she started being a writer right from the get-go. She was just really good at being a prison girlfriend. I'd always make fun of her. I'm like, "It's because you're Mexican. You guys are used to it generationally." And she's like, "Shut up. Your son's going to be Mexican." I'm like, "Oh, I don't really mean that, baby." She's like, "Oh, okay. I love you." I'm like, "I love you too." Now, it wasn't that smooth in the beginning. We had like a lot of baggage, and she's Karina's a very caring and considerate person, so she's asking me what's going on with my Suboxone, and I'm straight telling her, I'm like, "Hey, I can make something happen in here." And she's slick enough, like where she's like, we're talking code, and she's like, "Okay, like what do we got to do?" I'm like, "We need to get money." Now, my manager now, who was not my manager then, is Boston George's manager. That's how I'd met him. Jose. I was like, "Call Jose," and he wasn't even my manager at the time. He was just somebody that he was gonna have Christina come to my event. I was like, "Call Jose and see what's up." And so I told her that I needed $1,200, and she's like, "Damn, 1,200?" I was like, "That's what I need." So she ends up, her and I, there's no limit on the amount of, there's no limit on the amount of phone calls that you can make in the county jail. So I'm calling her back to back, and I tell her about the money, and she's like, I'll work on it with Jose, who's now my manager, and he's also the producer of my documentary. One of my best friends. I talk to him every day. We didn't know each other that well then, but like for some reason I was like, see if he can like lend us money or whatever, lend me money. So her and I start talking pretty much all day. The only time that you can't really use the phone is if there's a line and people are waiting for it. It's a 15-minute phone call, and I'd always get off. I'd be like, hey, does anyone need the phone? Just to be respectful. Nobody ever needed it, which is a bad sign. When people don't have anyone to call, nobody had anything either. Nobody had commissary, not even Midget Man, who had like fucking an ounce of heroin when he came in, and like, half ounce of crystal meth. None of them had commissary. They were like yelling down the yo, East 4, hey, can you send down a shot of coffee? I'm like, damn, you guys are on some bootleg shit. Are you serious? None of you guys have commissary? Not one person. Pisces didn't. The 12 white guys, nobody had commissary. So Karina and I start talking, and it was really comforting to have her on the other end. And she just started being really supportive. I don't know. She felt bad. And I think that we both, like, her parents have been married for like 40 years. My parents have been married for 40 years. It's like we both come from families that aren't families of divorce. They stuck together the whole time. So I think we both were raised kind of like, hey, let's try to at least make this work for Nico's sake. And if we can't make it work, we can't, but like, let's try. I think that's what our attitude was. And she was working on getting the money from Jose, and he had agreed to give her 600 of it, not 1,200. But he's like, hey, I can give you guys $600, and maybe like in another week I can give you another 600. She's like, perfect. So we started working on it. I told Midget Man that, and he fronted me like a 0.5 gram of heroin and a 0.5 gram of meth. So now, everybody in this entire unit is strung out on heroin. Every single person. Everyone, all the white guys, all the Pisces. It's like being in some fucking trap house. Like everybody's just on their bunk scratching and just gout out, drinking like milk that they got at breakfast, and it's like pouring down their chest. And I'm like, I'm just like, huh. I mean, if I got to do time, this is probably the best way to do it. And I fell right into that. They didn't have needles. We were just putting it up our nose. And, so I got it worked out where my girl was going to go meet this guy's brother, Midget Man's brother, as soon as she got the cash from Jose. Jose had PayPal'd it, and it took like a few days to get it liquidated or whatever because Karina didn't have a PayPal. I don't remember. It was something to that effect. And so we were basically just waiting. Now I had to go to court the next day. And I'm talking to Karina that night, and she's like, all right, well, I'm going to come to court tomorrow just so that I can see you. I can't wait to see you in your little blue scrubs. That's going to be funny to see you like that. Like, that's going to be funny. What the fuck? And she's like, I'm just kidding. And she's like, I don't know. You have to, because she'd been to this county jail herself. She got in DUI. She'd been there. She spent like a whole week in there one time. And so while we're on the phone, she goes, hey, there's something that I need to tell you. I'm like, great. You cheated on me anally. What's up? She's like, okay, so when you were going crazy, now, believe me, I'm still going crazy. Now I'm doing meth and heroin. I'm going even crazier. She just doesn't know that because she's not used to me being on heroin. She's just used to this big, weird, manic state that I was in. So I'm like calm and I'm listening to her for once instead of just, talking nonstop like I normally would when I'm in my like manic episodes. And she says that her, Max, my mom and dad, and Jeff, all the closest people in my life, had called the cops that night and told them that I wanted to commit suicide the night before at Jeff's house, where I went up to the grocery store and they called me from the parking lot. And that kind of made me mad. I was like, okay, well, you should never call the cops on someone like that. I mean, it's, I did it to get my medication, but I wasn't calling it on them, on my parents. It was more, hey, I need to get my medication. I just need you guys to mediate this. I don't want to press any charges or anything, but I need my medication, because I'm thinking legally they would have had to give them back to me. But they were calling the cops on me for no reason, like saying I was going to kill myself when I didn't tell them anything like that. I was like, okay. She's like, nah, well, that's not the bad part. I'm like, well, what's the bad part? What do you mean? She goes, well, me, Jeff, Max, your parents, we all got together and we decided that we should call your PO and demand that you get a warrant for your arrest. And I was like, what? I was like, you guys fucking conspired against me to put me in jail? Are you fucking kidding me? And we will get into this horrible, fucked up saga in the next episode. Videos are going to be shorter for the moment, but that's just because I have all this other stuff going on. But at least I want to give you guys content every day. This is going to be a long series, and a lot of really crazy shit's about to happen the whole time. It never really lets up. It was a very violent, hardcore time. Like, comment, subscribe, patreon.com/Ryan Leone. I appreciate you guys. Palabra.